So right now this is gonna be a video about my review for this RCA CPR-350 and then the RCA CPR-300, my reviews. And both of these are from 1987. And I've got them both on eBay and everything. But, you know, one of them came with almost everything. The other one came with only half. But actually this case for the CPR-350 actually was in one of my other camcorders, but I just decided to take the case from that CPR-350 and put it on this camcorder because this is the more professional one. Well, anyway, to compare the two, this one, if you would wonder what's the true difference between the two, well, obviously the colors and the fact that this one's an SVHS and this one's a VHS, or standard VHS. But this one though was like the leader of the camcorder world, or it was one of the popular model, or it was one of the popular camcorders that I knew of from back in the 80s. I mean, everybody had one, you know, besides like Panasonic Omni movies and other things like that. But this was a popular model of camcorder. But anyway, I mean, these, I didn't see too many of these around in my days. I mean, not too many people had these. I mean, this is actually a more rare camcorder. So I'm going to turn it on. And I'm going to eject it. See, I got them all to work. They're all working right now. And I even fixed the problem with the eating of the tape. I just realigned the pinch roller, you know. That's all I did. So everything's good to go. So with this camcorder, it's an SVHS. And then this one's a standard VHS. I'm going to turn it on and eject the tape too. So it's everything the same, basically. And then of course, the things that's about this camcorder, this is all the controls on it. And the auto-focusing is working, but you know, the lens, I'm going to turn it off. This is the controls, playback, camera. And then, you know, and then over here it has a switch, like for the T60, because it's like, it actually displays an estimated amount of time left on a cassette. And if you have a T160 tape, you have to press this, so that way the camcorder can recalculate the amount of time there is left. Well, it's not displaying anyway. So anyway, here's the viewfinder. Here's the view out of this camcorder. I mean, look at it now. So here's me playing with the rocker switch. And the dates is already set. I mean, I put batteries in this date display. And then here's a display of the batteries. And then, you know, and then this is where the estimated time is at. But now that's the feature that the CPR-350 does not have. It's the viewfinder from the 350, or the 300, the CPR-300. And so anyway, a little bit more about this camcorder. So this is the way the eyepiece looks. And it has a lock switch. And then a fancy logo. And then there's the front of it. I know that this was advertised to have 8x zoom, where the CPR-350 had the 6x. And then of course you can manually focus. And this is where we put the batteries, so that way the date display, where we put the batteries, and then where we set the time and stuff. I'm going to put the battery, that cover, back on. And it takes this kind of batteries anyway. And there's the underside of the camcorder. And then there's a model number, CPR-300. And then on this viewfinder, it's going to show the date of the manufacture. See, October 1987. So, and then more of the camcorder. And then it had this padding over here. It's kind of interesting the way it looks. And then the review button, display, and then the collar balance. Man, I don't know how that works, because that's one thing that it doesn't have on my CPR-350. And then here's the shutter speed, the shutter control, the auto iris, solid state image sensor. And so and then the zoom switches, the tracking, the remote, earphone, AV outs, and then the buttons, and then the battery, the 2-hour batteries. It was advertised to have a 2-hour battery. And then these camcorders, the way we hook up any video, any inputs, is to plug it in. It came with this and the TV, and the TV hookups, like the switch box for the TV, and it came with the, you know, the coaxial cable. That's what it came with in those days when the camcorders were new. And here's a battery charger for that camcorder. It has a camera and charge switch. The CPR-350, it's only one button, and it's like over here only. And then it has a little stand over here, so that way when we plug in the charger, it could keep the camera from tilting too much. So I'm just gonna put it back. And then when we plug in the video cable, we plug it in like this. It goes this way, and then we plug it in, and same thing with the other one. Now going with the 350, which is the next better one. This one was about $1,500 when it first came out, or the first time I saw it. This one was about $1,300 when it first came out, or I don't know exactly when it first came out. I think it came out probably in '86, but that '86 was a CMR-300 or something. But I do know that it was in the $1,300 range for that one, and $1,500 for this one when it first came out. And this one, I do remember that back in '87. And then see this camcorder. I mean, this camcorder has something different than that one does not have. Like everything's basically the same, but over here on this one it's just a zoom, and over here it has a speed switch. It has a fast. This one has that feature. That one does not. And then this one has a silver collared logo, and this one has a gold collared logo for the SVHS. And then over here it's also a little different for the SVHS tapes. I mean, the controls look like this on this camcorder, but on the SVHS over here, instead of the shutter, it has a selector. Like if you want to use super VHS tapes or VHS, this was to enable any user to be able to use a standard VHS, so that way he can go ahead and use it on any VCR, you know, rather than having to stick with SVHSs only for most of the people who didn't have SVHSs then. It's like Blu-rays, you know, like when the Blu-rays first came out, you know, very few people had them. So, I mean, you had to adapt with the DVD. So, and everything else is the same. But the one thing I noticed is that this camcorder sacrifices the the shutter speed or the selection. I guess it does have a shutter probably, but a high-speed shutter. But there's no there's nothing in here that allows me to do anything to do with the shutters. Over here, this one is the same thing, manufactured in October 1987. So it's when this one first came out, I guess. Well, I think this is the first year that they came up with an SVHS, evidently. But I know that they came up with this camcorder like a year before, like in '86. But this one, and I believe from what I researched, 1987 was the first year, but I'm not really sure that SVHS came out. But I do know that it was super expensive then. Some camcorders ran at $2,000 for an SVHS. Now looking through the viewfinder again, and here's the display. Everything's the same, basically. And then here's the little switch that I was talking about. I don't know why. Well, maybe I had to push it harder. This is you have to press that if you have a T60 so the camera can recalculate, so you can get an accurate reading. Yeah. So this is the display from it again. And the date. I don't know where the date display is at. Let's see. There's the date. I don't know why it's doing that. Oh well. Well, at least it's holding its time, though. It's all the same thing. It's basically the same thing, you know. Yeah. Well, that's my review. But as far as using these vintage items, I kind of feel that, you know, this one or the SVHS, but I think this is the one that's my favorite to use. My favorite one to use because, I mean, this was like the leader of camcorders back then. It was like, you know, like one of the most popular models, you know. So this one's actually the fun one to use, and this is probably my favorite one to use of all the vintage camcorders that I have.